and welcome to a new episode of Real People, Real Stories podcast. Thanks for joining to hear another real life story. I'm Rena, your host, and today my guest is Matt, a man navigating life after incarceration while also managing the complexities of autism and aspects of his identity and beliefs that have often made it difficult to find connection and understanding. He shares what led to his prison sentence, what he experienced while incarcerated, and how he has been rebuilding his life since his release. Matt also reflects on where he is now and why speaking openly about his journey matters to him. Please welcome Matt.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you for joining and thank you for willing to sharing your story. It's there are a lot of aspects to it, so I'm very curious to know more about it. You shared with me that you have autism. At what age have you been diagnosed with this?
20.
And has your life changed after the diagnosis? How the people see you or perceived you, or connections, something else?
I think that before I was diagnosed, I was very concerned about what other people thought of me, and I looked for validation from the outside world. Once I was diagnosed, I realized that I will never get the kind of validation I'm looking for. And I love myself and I accept the person that I am, and I no longer look for outside validation.
That's a deep thought, and not everybody understands it. So some positive came out from the diagnosis because you were able to understand who you are and how you perceive the world and the people around you.
That's correct.
That's great. You also mentioned some conservative political beliefs. Do you think they help you? They make it more difficult for you to connect with people because somebody else do not hold the same political beliefs as you?
I am not looking to be validated by other people. I know that Jesus is my Lord, that Jesus sent his only begotten Son to die for my sins, and I am no longer interested in looking to be validated by other people. What I believe is whatever's in the Bible, that's what I believe. I know a lot of people, they cut and paste what they want to believe. In other words, there's certain things they believe and other things they don't believe. But I know that everything in the Bible is true, and that's how I live my life.
Okay, I do understand it, but it's more about religious beliefs rather than political.
I am most interested in what the Bible says.
I don't say I am against it, but the religious beliefs, they can also be a type of communication that can cause some problems in some cases, but you already stated your point of view that you're not looking for validation from people and you're who you are. Thank you for clarifying this. Then let's move to other part of your story. You mentioned that you went to prison. Would you like to elaborate? Maybe it will help somebody to avoid the same mistakes if there were some mistakes. Can you please talk about this a little bit?
I went to prison twice. Once in 2004 because I worked at a car dealership. They didn't pay me my commissions, and I impulsively decided to sell one of their vehicles. I got caught. Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford decided I didn't meet the criteria to go through the mental health court, which if I completed successfully and I didn't pick up additional charges, I may not have a record today. But instead, I went through the regular court, came out with a record, couldn't find a job, and in 2009, I used other people's Social Security card and driver's license to pass a background check. I did the work. And then in 2016, the government indicted me for identity theft and money laundering. The government had pursued me for 6 years and went to about 10 different grand juries and finally got an indictment against me. They spent about $500,000. I went to federal prison, went to about 10 different institutions because they didn't know what to do with me. I wrote a lot of grievances because I was being discriminated against because I'm gay and I'm a Christian. And as a result, I was targeted. And during that time in federal prison, I started journaling my story to share with the world.
I'm sorry to hear that you had such difficult journey during the years you mentioned, but from this experience you decided to make something useful out of this and started to write the journal so you can use it later on.
And that's how I wrote my book. I wanted to share my story. I wanted to get it out to the world. I didn't want to have see anyone else go through what I went through.
The stories that people share, it's not only to hear, oh, somebody lived this way or this way, they had this job. It's also about inspiring or learning from other people's life.
Absolutely. I mean, I learned a lot. My relationship with God grew when I was in prison because I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. And while the prison might have had my body, they didn't have my mind, and I sharpened the saw. I sharpened my mind. I got into the word. I started praying. Before I went to federal prison, I was a lukewarm Christian. I was living a different lifestyle. I was doing what I wanted, and then at church on Sunday, I would ask for forgiveness, and then I would go back to the same dishonest, lying, cheating lifestyle that I had been living. And so I was, I had one foot in the Bible and 1 foot out of the Bible, 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out of the water. And God always says he'd rather you be cold than be lukewarm.
Was there some event during your incarceration in one or another prison that made you go more deeply back to God and read the Bible?
In August 2015, I was driving on 495 headed west when a Lexus SUV came down an embankment and crossed in front of my car, and but by inches I was saved. And that was the moment that I had an epiphany and that I needed to stop living an ungodly lifestyle. I needed to stop putting Jesus in the passenger seat and start putting Jesus in the driver's seat.
Okay, glad that you survived that. Although it was an incident, you were safe, and that's led to the change in your behavior, and you went back to God, which also helped you during your time in prison. And let me ask you, you told during your first sentence they didn't discount it on your autism. So while you were both times incarcerated, diagnosis with the autism, it didn't help you at all. They didn't ease your time there.
Not at all. No, my time was not reduced as a result of my diagnoses.
And when you were incarcerated, they didn't ease on you or offer you better conditions or something else?
No, absolutely not. Instead, I was targeted because I was autistic and had Asperger's.
Sorry to hear that this experience was so hard and you had to go through this, but you came out stronger and you started believe again to God. So you learn from all this experience.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm a better person today because of my prison experience. I don't think I would have the faith today if I didn't go to prison.
That's very deep thought. Is there anything else that you want to share about that time that you think the listeners might find useful?
I think it's important to love yourself, to accept who you are, to not look for validation from the outside world because you'll always be disappointed. And it's really important to find your tribe. Make friends. And if you're neurodivergent, find friends that are neurodivergent. If you're neurotypical, find friends that are neurotypical.
Okay, that's the ideal situation. And nowadays, after your second prison sentence ended, how do you find yourself to be again back in the society? How this experience is different from the first time?
I don't think it's the only difference for me is that I have a better relationship with God. I've done work on myself, and I'm in the Word and praying every single day. I wasn't doing that when I came out the first time.
Right. Also, the first time you mentioned you had a problem to find a job, which is understandable because you had the sentence, and then you started falsifying the documents that you already told. So the second time that you went out after, because the world has changed in these years, was it difficult or easier for you to find a job or some employment?
Oh, it's far more difficult today. I mean, the background checks are so prolific. Employers are not understanding of somebody making mistakes and getting in trouble with the law. So it's gotten exponentially more difficult.
And is there any help from the government, from municipality, from somebody for people like you?
Absolutely not.
That this doesn't help you or others who have been released from prison?
It doesn't. I don't think people care about somebody who has a record. We have a system that locks people up and then releases them in a worse condition because now they have a record. Now they can't find a job. They can't find housing. They can't adopt a child. They have to go through the long lines at the airport. So the rehabilitation in this country doesn't happen. It's far worse. And then the treatment that we receive behind bars, we're treated as if we are dirt. The way that they talk, the guards treat prisoners is just dreadful.
Well, sorry to hear that the government and the society, they don't help the people who are released from prison to find job or housing. It's definitely a big problem. Not only for US, I can imagine. I think it will take a lot of time if somebody wants to repair it. Is there anything else from your experience you like to share? You mentioned your sexuality. How has this shaped you in any way, or is it, or made it difficult during the past years that you were incarcerated?
I think it's made it more difficult. I mean, this country doesn't really accept folks that are gay, in my opinion. I mean, they praise men that have women that are 3 times less than their age, or a woman who's 3 times as young as their partner. But we live in a heteronormative society where if you are outside of that box, you get treated worse. It's hard to make friends. And so in my situation, trying to find a church that accepts me for who I am and isn't trying to convert me to some disgusting individual that I'm not. And I know men that are gay but are married to women, and they're just miserable.
I heard that actually in the USA, the rights LGBTQ community, they have progressed. So I'm surprised to hear that you're facing so many obstacles and issue in this.
Well, I mean, the LGBTQ community works if you're ultra liberal, and I am not. I don't agree with a lot of things that organization pushes. And if you want to support an organization, follow the money, find out who the donors are. But I'm not going to support. So I don't agree with pretty much anything that the community does.
So you're more single, standing outside of the community, and that's why for you it has been difficult to make some connections and to find a church, as you mentioned. Right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. We discussed almost all topics that you have mentioned to me and you wanted to speak, or is there something else you wanted to mention that I did not ask you yet?
If your viewers want to email me, my email address is bullybehindbars@gmail.com. I'm on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'd love to help in any way I can.
Any advice maybe for the listeners?
Love yourself, find a tribe, and accept who you are, and don't stop looking for outside validation.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for being here and for talking talking to me and for sharing your different types of experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Real People, Real Stories podcast. Join us next time for another